Every town has a ghost story that's been passed down through the generations. But what if those legends were true? My name is Miranda Young, and I'm the Ghost Biker. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ghost Biker Garage. Happy Thursday. Happy April. We are excited to be here. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you caught last week's show, we had the wonderful author, Miss Lori Yaney, and we talked about her as well as some of her new books. We also talked about a lot of the really cool things that's going on there at the historic Scott County Jail, as well as some interesting things that's going on with Ghost Biker. We just filmed an episode for season 6. Very excited about that. Traveled to Southern Kentucky and did that investigation. Started going through a little bit of research, already finding some really cool things that I can't wait to share with you guys. Maybe we'll roll out some early reels on that. We'll just kind of have to see how it goes. But anyways, I hope everyone is having a wonderful week so far. If you can hear me okay, please go ahead and make a comment there in the comments. I was having a little bit of technical difficulty just a little bit earlier. So if somebody could let me know, that'd be great. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get to it. Like I said, a lot of really cool things going on at the historic Scott County Jail coming up here during the month of April. We're pretty well booked up for the entire month when it comes to investigations. We do have a couple dates there for, excuse me, on Fridays and Sundays that are open if you have a paranormal investigation team and would like to book for that. We've also got our motorcycle events that are coming up. We're kicking off the riding season, the 2023 summer riding season, with our Blessing of the Bikes. That's going to be on Saturday, April 15th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we've got food truck going to be coming serving up country breakfast there. We've got tickets to the historic Scott County Jail where you can come in. We've got some very, very cool helmet stickers. If you purchase a ticket and go through our True Crime Museum, you'll be able to get one of the free stickers. And then, you don't have to necessarily be a motorcycle rider to attend the event, but bring your 2 wheels out, get them blessed, start the season off right. And that's going to be April 15th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time there at the historic Scott County Jail. We're going to be blasting that coming up over the next little bit, putting all that information out there. So if anybody has any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to my business partner, Dr. Christy Sumner, or the jail. We've got all that information there. Also, we've got a very special show coming up this Sunday night that we want to make sure to go ahead and plug. Ben Fuller, if you watched any of the videos and stuff that's come out of the jail, Mr. Ben Fuller, he is a Christian contemporary music artist, and he filmed a video there at the jail, and he sat down with myself, my business partner, and we recorded an interview with him that's going to drop this Easter Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Jailhouse Informant podcast that you can watch on the historic Scott County Jail page, as well as on the historic Scott County Jail YouTube channel as well. So that interview is going to air, and a lot of folks submitted their questions, and we were able to ask those during the interview. So hopefully you guys, if you're looking for something to do, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday night, tune into that because we've got a really great interview. It was really cool of him to sit down and record with us. He's going to be talking about the video that he shot there as well. Also got guided ghost hunts that are available there. That we've got a couple dates open during the month of April. If you don't see the date on the calendar and you want to book an a guided ghost hunt there at the historic Scott County Jail, you can reach out to us. We've got a tab there under the paranormal tab, and then also our flashlight tours as well. So like I said, a lot of really cool things going on. Also, I want to make sure to pull this up. We've been plugging this event for the past couple months here, and always excited about this. This is the final year of Enigma Cons that's taken place on April 22nd and 23rd, or excuse me, April 22nd at St. Albans. Going to be speaking there. I believe that my time that I'll be speaking will be at 2 p.m. Eastern time at the Grand Staircase. But, I think they had, as of last week, they had 2 tickets available. And I'm not sure what they have as of right now. It's like 2 or 4 tickets. So it's always limited, always sells out, but it's a a ghost hunt there at St. Albans, as well as speakers, vendors, lots of really cool things going on April 22nd at St. Albans. So go check that out. We do have the links. We will have the links there in the show notes. So definitely check that out. And we may even have Mr. Ronnie Anderson. Yep, here he is. He's there in the comments. He's one that always tunes in. So definitely, I don't know, Ronnie, do you guys still have tickets available? Let me know there in the comments if you do. But definitely want to check that out, because this is the last year for this, and we're getting really, really excited about that. That's coming up here on April 22nd. Just want to say hello real quickly to a few people over here in the audience. Hello, Mrs. Susan Purcell. Hi to Janet Alms, Marianne Malone, Miss Zombie herself, Miss Sonia Thompson, and David Anderson. Just want to tell you, David, we are working on the event in Kentucky as well. So hopefully you'll join us again this year for our haunted motorcycle ride that's going to be coming up on October 15th. It's going to be the weekend of the 14th, 15th, and 16th. We're working with Wildcat Harley Davidson to get that haunted motorcycle ride coming up. Also guided ghost hunt, working with the London Laurel Tourism Commission to get that set up. All the proceeds from that goes to the Shop with a Cop program. So that's going to be in October, weekend of October 14th, 15th, and 16th. If there happens to be a rainout date, it will be the next weekend. So definitely watch out for that. So looking forward to seeing you there, Mr. David Anderson. And as Ronnie said, there are just a couple tickets left for the Enigma Cons event. So I'm not going to waste too much time, because we have a great guest tonight. I've had him on the schedule now for pretty much since the beginning of the year, and been really looking forward to having him on. I'm going to go ahead, and I know he's brought quite a bit of evidence that he's going to be sharing with us. So always love it whenever our guests provide us with evidence and different cool things that we can listen to. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce him here. So we've got Mr. Greg Bakun. Greg is a seasoned paranormal investigator, intuitive, and ITC specialist. His favorite method of communicating with spirits is through the spirit box, also known as the ghost box. Greg is passionate about bridging the gap between the metaphysical and paranormal by bringing together mediums and paranormal investigators to work together to help each other to validate communication, share information, and promote respectful investigations. Greg also runs ParaFriends Events that allows people to have a chance to investigate haunted locations and to meet paranormal celebrities. In addition to investigating cool and active locations, Greg is the host of the popular radio show Ghost Box Radio, broadcasting live every Sunday afternoon at 4:06 p.m. on AM 950 radio in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, also live streaming around the world. The show can also be found on iTunes and Spotify. On Ghostbox Radio, Greg interviews guests about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, or just anything unusual. Finally, every Sunday night on Facebook at 10 Central Time, Greg runs Ghostbox Live, which is a live spirit box session where viewers can connect with their loved ones who have passed. And so we're very excited. ITC is one of the things that I love talking about, because I feel like it's such a great tool that I feel like is underutilized in the paranormal community. So let's go ahead and welcome Mr. Greg Bakun. Hey, Greg.
Hi, Miranda. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time tonight to come on and chat with us.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you. Sounds like you have a lot of stuff going on over there. Holy cow.
We do. We've been keeping very busy, and I'm in the process of getting moved up there. My house goes on the market tomorrow, and I'm officially out of here. This is my last night here. So
wow,
be close and working up there.
That's fantastic. Great news. Wow.
Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and start with you telling us about yourself and how you got started with your paranormal journey?
I guess the thing is, I mean, we you talked in the intro that that you did that it was Spirit Box in ITC. It's always been a big part of my whole paranormal journey. In fact, it was through some of the shows that I started seeing like the Spirit Box getting used, and I thought to myself, well, if this actually works, then I'm in. I want to do this. I want to see if I can reach out to Spirit and whatnot. And I we ended up getting a Spirit Box from Amazon. We didn't go anywhere spooky or anything like that to get a Spirit Box. We went to Amazon and we got some cameras. And I worked at an advertising agency in downtown Minneapolis. In fact, it was the same building that Prince had a club called Glam Slam, and we were actually our offices were on the 12th floor where where his uh, uh, his apartment was.
Oh,
So
wow.
we ended up going down to the creepy basement of the building. The building went back to 1916. Went down to the creepy basement. Now that's not a creepy basement. Back then it was a creepy basement, but through the journey that I've taken and the places that you have been and everything else, you'd look at that and you'd be like, this is great. It's lit. It's there's electricity. I'm not freezing when it's winter. This is not the same sort of thing that you and I are now well accustomed to doing, events or doing investigations or anything. So we end up taking out the Spirit Box, just an SB7, putting on the ground, no external speaker because I didn't know anything about that. To the point that I wanted to do like to do on the shows, night vision, but I didn't know what night
Mhm.
vision was. So I just put a camera in a dark room, and what that gave you was a no picture, basically. I mean,
Right.
that's how really well versed I was in all this, and so I turned on the Spirit Box, and we're just like, I first question. This is all recorded. I'm like, is there anybody here? Can we get your name, please? And we get Nate right away, Nate.
Oh.
And I'm like, we're just looking at each other. My friend Jeff and I were just like, holy cow. And so then I'm like, can we get a last name, please? And we get Lund, Lund. And we
Oh.
asked a couple more questions, started getting stuff. And then I said, was there anyone else here that would like to talk with us? And this female voice comes through and she just says, hello. I mean, and for the first time ever doing this, it was like not bad. And so we go upstairs to the 12th floor, and I just said, my name is Greg. This is Jeff. Can you say Greg and can you say Jeff? And we literally get Greg, Jeff right away. I mean, this is all recorded, so it's certainly stuff
Yeah.
I can share. I haven't shared it in years actually, which I really should because it's really incredible for the first time. You know, and
Absolutely.
and and I also we did the flashlight, but I didn't
Mhm.
know what the flashlight was. I just saw and I forgot how it was done. So, I mean, the flashlight
Mhm.
was also like instead of having like a little mag light or something, I had one of
Mhm.
those big industrial
Yep.
things, and I'm just like, "Can you turn off the flashlight? Can you please, can you please drain it?" I actually said, and on camera, to me now I showed it to my boss, that at the agency, and he's like, "It's not doing it." To me, it's draining, like, the light is getting dimmer when I ask it to, but he's
Mhm.
like, "No, it's not," and he's like, "Stop being a killjoy." Um, and then going through the footage down in the creepy basement later, going through it, and all of a sudden you just hear, "Nope," and like, "What is that? That's a person."
Mhm.
And then we found out because we did some research and we because the whole thing was to make a like you do and like I do,
Yeah.
make like web series and stuff. That
Mhm.
was the point of it. And we're doing interviews, and there's a guy there that we talked to who had seen apparitions down in the basement, and he's just like, yeah, we'd hear some stuff. And so we pull out a tablet that had that video on it, and I said, is this what you heard? And you hear that same thing I just said, and he just looks at me, he goes, yeah. And
Wow.
so that was, I mean, for the first time ever doing any of this, that was pretty incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because people go and don't, they've done this for years and don't get such great captures there off of the spirit box. That really is incredible.
It was a lot of fun. It was very, and right away I was just like, this is something I want to do, and I want to use Spirit Box. And as you said, it's, ITC is underutilized, and I would even say that it's also contentious. I think that there's a
Very
lot of
much.
people who they don't want to know, and that's fine. I mean, I always have people who are like, I don't think it works. I think that, and this is within the paranormal community. People are like,
Mhm.
well, this is, basically voodoo. It's not real. You're not hearing anything. It's impossible. I don't think that you could put, though, human restraints and human rules to
Mhm.
anything that has to do with spirit or anything in the paranormal, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And that's how I think you have to look at it. I think you also have to really look at the situation. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, there are times that radio frequency does come over, but you have to look at the types of question that are being asked and
Mhm.
the response, and then also the situation that's going on around you. At the jail, the spirit box, the ovilus, anything that is either ITC based or a word bank, and I'm not even talking about like apps or anything like that,
Mhm.
things that are independent
Yep.
from your phones. Those are some of the best tools that you can use at the jail because they'll use those to talk about things that are going on around you and things that I mean, they'll describe your clothes you're wearing, they'll describe the articles on the wall. It's really fascinating and it's hard to explain when you capture certain things in full sentences that that wouldn't come over as fast as those sweep rates are going. That wouldn't come over one of those boxes.
Absolutely, and that's what I always tell people. Like, originally when I started, I'm like, well, if you get 2 syllables, that's
Mhm.
also good. But now it's like full sentence. That's when you're getting some really cool things in the same voice across the entire
Yes.
sentence. And part of it is like, yeah, sometimes you're going places you're not connecting the spirit. But I also wonder, are you asking, not you, of course, Miranda, but just the
Right.
general you, are you asking questions that they want to answer?
Mhm.
That's, if you're asking like, are you dead? Which when I looked at that video I did ask that question, do you know you're dead? And that's one of the no-nos, right? That's just really a dumb question because it's just stupid. You don't that. And also when you start up, I mean, I remember starting up working with some people. We were doing just not an event, but a bunch of us went to the Calumet Hotel in Pipestone, Minnesota. We spend all this time setting up the room and all this stuff, and had some guy, okay, go ahead, get started. What do you want to ask? And their first question was, do you want us to leave? After, and it's like, no, 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 because I'm one of those people. If spirit would have said yes, then
It's
okay,
done.
we gotta go. That's really just a silly question. Right, exactly. No, absolutely, because it's just, and Ronnie, I don't know you, but I know you from what Miranda's saying. So obviously you're very well seasoned as well. Not as well. I don't know if I'm well seasoned at all, but you get my drift though. It's like obviously there's certain things. It's like we wanna ask spirit stuff that's fun,
Mhm.
or something that's relative, or get some insight into them. Not like, do you hate the fact that you're dead? It's like, come
Well,
on.
and it makes you wonder too, and of course you have to approach the situation different depending on the type of location you're at, but it makes you wonder if that's the reason that sometimes they are unresponsive because if you go in and all of a sudden it's like you're going into somebody's house and you're asking these very personal questions about how they died and all this stuff rather than going into maybe a little more starting off just a little more, I don't know, talking about things on a more human level, especially if they're intelligent.
Well, it'd be a fun video to make. Like, do a, and maybe it's been made and I've just never seen it. We do a video where it's basically like how you would how you're asking questions to spirit, but doing it to living people. So just like a shot
Right.
of like someone sitting at the kitchen table, all of a sudden an investigator comes in and just looks at them. Are you dead? I mean, it would be so funny. Did you know you're dead? And they're just like, what? I mean, it's like, no, go away. I mean, it's just like how, I mean, because isn't that the point, like you said, Miranda, that you're doing the stuff, you're treating spirit as you would those of us that are still living. So,
Exactly.
you're not gonna just like go in and be like, are you evil? Exactly. Exactly.
And I think that's why, because a lot of the time I know I'm very lucky and fortunate when I go to a lot of the locations. Is anytime I feel like when a spirit is communicating with me, that I'm very lucky, I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of that comes from the respect of how you go in there. Again, you talk to spirits different in different locations. I get that, to try to see if certain things will trigger activity.
Yep.
However, it's all about respect.
Yeah, I mean, you might do different things, but
Mhm,
you're not gonna cross a line. For example, about 2 years ago, I was over in Gettysburg over the, anniversary of the battle, and we did
mhm.
an event over at Air Ridge, and, we had a great night, and, I was just by myself, and I just thought to myself, "This is really interesting being from Minnesota," and in at Air Ridge at one point was both a hospital and a Confederate hospital, or it's Confederate headquarters, excuse me.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting there with my spirit box and I'm just like, speaking the spirit. And I'm like, I think it's really interesting, don't you? That here I am, just had no problem getting in here whatsoever. And I'm from Minnesota, and I just walked right into the Confederate headquarters. And the response was "F you." And, as a friend pointed out, because I just said this story recently, and they're like, "Well, they didn't know that word back then," and I was like, "Probably not, but that's what I got." And, I don't think that that is being rude. It's actually I
No.
look at it as being playful. It's not certainly
Mhm.
being provoking, but it is like, I mean, just saying that,
Did
so
they have an accent?
that's a good question. I should go back and listen to the recording
Yeah.
because I don't remember, because of course, like, I'm there sitting there by myself, and as soon as I did, someone walks in because the event was over. So I just thought I'd, steal a couple minutes, but then someone walks in and kind of uh took my attention away. But yeah, it was really like, wow, okay, that's good. I mean, it's an intelligent response.
Absolutely, and it's interesting, and I did look up. I was at a reenactment, and the several of the people that we were with, there were some things that happened. Someone fell off a horse, and they said the same thing when they accidentally fell off the horse. So we were kind of laughing, and I believe when we looked it up, the F word goes way back. And it's interesting you say that, because at Octagon Hall, which is a location that Confederate sympathizers,
Yep.
and while we were in the barn, one of the coolest, and this was un-ITC aided, this was just straight EVP out of the air. We ended up getting a full sentence that said, "F them boys, come on."
Wow.
And yeah, and it was when we were just kinda sitting in the barn acting like, trying to reenact that we were on the watch out for the troops that were supposed to be coming in.
So, because I had wondered if that might have been residual, but you think that it is intelligent to what you are all doing then?
It's interesting, because I feel like there's a fine line between intelligent and residual activity.
Sure.
And I often wonder sometimes if you can it seems like sometimes we can trigger residual activity. So if you
Yeah.
can trigger it, is it in turn intelligent if it can be triggered?
Sure. Because it's picking up on something familiar.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So it's almost like a there needs to be another term of intelligent residual or triggered residual at that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be at Octagon Hall in June, early June.
Oh.
So I'm gonna check it because I've been fortunate enough. Myself and Char Savoy, who I do a lot of events and stuff with,
Mhm.
we're headlining an event at Waverly, June 3rd. And and then after that, we're going to a number of locations and just going to be able to just kind of take it all in and stuff. So it's gonna be a jam-packed couple days, but it's gonna be
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah, you need to work your own way on down to the jail when you're at Octagon Hall.
How far away is that?
From Octagon Hall, it is about 3 hours.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
boy, I'll see what can be done because I would love to do that. Um, and I'll be in touch. I'll take a look and I'll
Yeah,
be in
please,
touch. Yeah.
please. Yeah, and have you done Octagon Hall before?
No, no, no. I haven't.
Oh.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's one of my favorites, and basically it's one that, I've when I started out doing that one, that was one where I was there for I would go in 2-day stints, go for the full weekend. And
Okay.
inevitably, the second night was always different. But that place, I always got something, and some of the some of the best disembodied voices that I've ever
Mm.
captured at Octo, and it's a strange place too. You get everything from Sasquatch type activity to UFO type activity. I mean, I've never been anywhere that is just very, very deep in high strangeness, you know?
That is great. I mean, and that's, not to veer too far off course here, but
Mhm.
Spirit Box, I love using Spirit Box to try to reach to see if we can get any sort of alien interaction.
Oh,
I, I'll tell you,
interesting.
I'll tell you the last time we did it, because I do the sessions Sunday and Tuesday nights.
Yes.
And Tuesday nights we tend to do it where I have a subject. Like Sunday night, I reach out to people's loved ones. It's almost like a mediumship gallery.
Mhm.
Tuesday is like, okay, I want to reach out to Abraham Lincoln, and I have something to share about that. Or aliens. And we've been doing stuff, and it's interesting, strange noises and stuff, but nothing really tangible. And then this
Mhm.
last one that I did about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I got a little bit more pointed with my questions, more about alien abduction, more about, like, where are you? Why, come here, all the stuff
Mhm.
you shouldn't do, really. Um, and all of a sudden, it's like, okay, I think the sweep on my spirit box is too slow. So I ramp it up, and then it starts going faster, and I didn't touch it. And then end up having ended up having some strange things come through, some strange sounds, and all of a sudden, really fast, the sweep is really fast. I hear through the box, um, we're coming." And I
Wow.
said, "Are you coming to the Earth, or are you coming for me?" And the next response was, "For you." And so this is on
Wow.
the live, so people watch it. And then the energy just gets really weird in here. And I start to feel like I'm not alone. I start to feel really odd. By the time I turn off the box, I'm so disoriented. I'm so disoriented. I have a headache. I really don't know. I mean, if you go back and watch it, I'm just sitting there like, I don't know what else to say, folks. I'm just, I can't finish a sentence. And other people are starting in the comments, they're just like, I don't feel so well, I don't, they're just kind of, and it's these are people that I trust. It's not, because
Yeah.
sometimes it gets psychosomatic, right, that you say something
Mhm.
and other people like, I do too, but these are people that I trust. Like Denise Pack
Yeah,
is one
yeah.
of them. She's watching, and she's not, she's just like, yeah, something's not right. I
Mhm.
start messaging her and a gentleman, I don't know Brad Webb, if you know Brad, he
Yeah,
does
yeah, I
Practice
do.
Well Paranormal. He's just like not feeling great about stuff. And so I'm messaging both of them after the show, and my phone dies, and it's just like, well, what? So next time, charge your battery better. No, that's not it. The battery was charged. The phone died. It stopped
Wow.
working. I could not turn it on. And then after that, the next day, the nosebleed started.
Mm.
And I'm just gonna say it. I'm not saying that this is them or anything, but
Yeah.
I found marks behind my ear,
Oh, wow.
that weren't there, just a scratch. Doesn't mean that it is them, but I'm just going to say it. So I'm in no big hurry, but I'll tell you what I wanna do, as it's getting nicer out here. I wanna do a CE5, and, see about how, and Brad Webb, he wants to do one in his area, like,
Mhm.
we'll each find fields, but we're not gonna do it alone. We gotta find people to do it with us, because this is what happened that night. I will now say it's dangerous. That's what I look at it as. It was dangerous. It was actually irresponsible. Doing a CE5 and just being out there and like, come on down. It's just, that's all. You got to be careful about that stuff.
You do, and it's really interesting you say that because anytime I love having a variety of guests on. And I don't know if you've ever had this problem with your show, but broadcasting here with Facebook, YouTube, and at the time I was doing on LinkedIn as well.
Mhm.
Anytime I have somebody on to talk about anything UFO related or anything essentially national park missing 411 type
Oh
things,
yeah.
I either have issues with the guest where we're not able to do the broadcast, or there was certain times, certain things that I would say that shut my feed off. Either I would one time, and I had Preston Dennett on, and it dropped me completely off, and for 20 minutes, I could not get back on,
But he was
and he was on. He was sitting
wow.
there on, and it's the weirdest thing, and I've noticed it with those 2 topics, and there's a couple specific topics there with UFOs, but have you noticed anything like that when you're having either certain guests or talking about certain things?
Well, not so much with the radio show because the radio
Mhm.
station's falling apart as it is. So if
Ah.
anything happens, I can't necessarily say that it's spirit. I think it's age and broadcast technology that's was 20 years ago. But when it comes to, like, for example, last would have been last Sunday. No, it was the Sunday before. I think that I haven't done a spirit box session in a little while. Last Sunday we did a live spirit. A live paranormal investigation from a Masonic lodge last
Oh.
Saturday. The Sunday before, I did one of my Ghost Box Live, and then we started to get stuff through the box that was like demon,
Oh,
fu.
wow.
But before that, it started to glitch. I guess I didn't see it, and
Mhm.
people were like, "You're glitching," and I'm like, "Okay, well, it's Facebook." And then it started to glitch more and more, and then the mood became pretty bad as people, once again, people I trust, who are getting
Mhm.
nauseous, that the
Mhm.
energy that was coming in was not good. I ended the session really quickly, to be honest, after that, because the whole thing, this is not meant to be like exploitative, where it's just
Sure,
like,
sure.
come on in and knock things over. This is more of like, can grandma come in? And
Mhm.
when you're like, can grandma come in, and you get F you, I'm a demon, it's like, okay. Now it didn't say that, but one of the things
Right.
it said was what was it? Was it people, I hate them, I think is what came through. I'm like, well, come on. We do this thing at the beginning where we're doing protection. We're like calling and I'll say, and I know that there's paranormal investigators out there that roll your eyes when you say this stuff, but it's like, I'm here for love and light. I only want to speak to spirits of love and above, the whole thing. And then you turn it on, and this doesn't happen often at all. But then you get, demon, and some
Mhm.
people heard like Satan. I didn't hear that. And
Yeah.
I think it's hard, you're going through a lot of different channels, if you will, to get the sound that you're
Mhm.
hearing. But it's just like, we got to stop this. And then I just, once again, I went dark for about 2 weeks, because it's like, I have people who love what I do. They love getting spirit communication. I have a responsibility to protect them, and
Mhm.
make sure I understand what's going wrong here before I come back on.
Mhm. Absolutely. And so just to kind of back up briefly, and for anyone that's watching that maybe isn't familiar with ITC, can you give sort of a breakdown of ITC communication and how it differs from other forms of investigating techniques?
Beats me. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I'll tell you. You're just like, what the? Um, ITC, intertransmental communication. It's the idea of spirit communication through any electronic device. And I hold up my phone because I have a voicemail I'll play later.
Mhm.
Um, it's basically, and spirit people use spirit boxes. Obviously, that's
Mhm.
that's one made. But what about stuff that isn't made for paranormal investigation, where spirit can talk to you, such as walkie talkies, such as
Mhm.
baby monitors, televisions. Some
Mhm.
people do a experiment where you're flashing static, and what can you get coming through the static? Can you get pictures of any kind? It doesn't have to be, yep, Ronnie puts it in there, we're on the same page.
Mhm.
Anything that is, that can send out a signal of some kind. your digital recorder, getting an EVP is ITC. It's about getting those responses. I always say, funny enough, I do this thing with Shar once a month called Ghost Stories and Beyond. And we it's just a physical location people come to, and we every month we do something different. We have a different thing. And the funny thing is I went through the spiel last night because I was showing off equipment, and I said ITC, any sort of appliance or whatever else, so your toaster can talk to you or whatever. And someone raised their hand and like, did you say appliances? And I'm like, well, not necessarily. I mean, if the toaster doesn't have a speaker and it's talking to you, that's pretty interesting. But I just maybe more of just any sort of electronic device to get any kind of, and that's the thing that's really exciting these days, is that we have so many smart people who are making their own equipment and doing different experiments. So it's not just the same big companies that are making expensive equipment trying to get people to buy them, which they're doing some good stuff, but there's a lot of these smaller people like Brad Webb for Crack Skull Paranormal, or Katie Stafford making ink boxes and stuff. And we're and there's another one I like to use, D's Ghosts. And these are people who are like, we want to make a little bit of money. I mean, that makes sense, but we're not going to try to rob you dry. That's really that's a big change from when I got into this field.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I'm always telling people, because people will go in and they start picking these different techniques and tools and stuff apart.
Yep.
But the way I like to look at it, you can't limit spirit in this. If a spirit wants to talk through a smoke alarm or through any your lamps that are there in your house, they'll find a way. If there's a way for them to manipulate it, and if we just pay attention and look at what's going on around us, because I think it happens more often than what people realize. We're getting a lot more spirit interaction than what people think.
Absolutely. If my if my selfie light started to flash and like it started to answer me, I mean, and I all of us are doing it. Anytime a light just kind of flickers, next thing you know, we're talking to it. We're we're not just like, well, I guess it's bad light, it's bad wiring. No, it's like, who is there? I mean, it's just and it's like it takes about 40 minutes to be like, okay, you haven't answered me at all. I guess you are a bad wiring or something, and then it'll do it again. I'm like, okay, no, okay, I'll ask again. It never ends.
Absolutely. And I just got a shout out there to Katie Stafford, because I got to meet him for the first time there at Haygood Mill there in South Carolina, and his equipment is phenomenal.
It is.
And I love it's very good priced.
It is. It's those ink boxes are really good. I say that not having one, but I've used them a number of times and I need to get one. And the first time I met him, a friend of mine and I were, Christy and I were doing a live over at the Octagon Mansion in Whitville, Virginia, and which is a phenomenal place as well. And lots, I mean, that's a whole other sort of Civil War sort of museum, so many unique items in there. But we were doing our live, and all of a sudden I get a message from someone, and like, Katie wants to come on. And I knew of him, but I never actually met him. So we had him on, and he was kind of doing ITC from his location to see if he can get anything from the mansion. So,
oh, that's cool.
Not to be confused though with his wife Katie. You have Katie and Katie, but we live in odd times. So.
Octagon Hall, Octagon Mansion,
and Octagon
Katie,
Hall,
KT,
Octagon Mansion, Beer Box, Ghost Box, Cracker Box. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just
right.
all the things. Yeah.
So before we get into some of your different evidence that you've provided to us, because I want to get into that, I actually want to take a minute, since we're here at the bottom of the hour. Go ahead and talk about a couple of your other your event company that we mentioned, as well as your radio show.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, everything. This has been a very blessed year for myself and the people that I work with. In terms that we are, I'm working with some really intelligent people who we all we want to do is put out some good stuff. And so, like, a shout out to Char Savoy, who she runs Charvinity, which she does classes, and she's a medium. She sells stuff that she makes. If I do you mind if I put out her
No,
web address?
no. Actually, I
It's
will plug that in if you'll say that. I'll plug that
sure.
in, put the link out there.
It's charvinity.com, and I'll spell that for you. It's CharVinity no, is that, but and .com.
All right, give that a second to pull up there. There we go. And so I'll go ahead. If you want to talk through that, I'll pull that up on the screen.
And we do classes together. We do an introduction to paranormal class for people. Yep, that's it. Over in the events section, she has a lot of her stuff going on, but also the stuff that we're working on. See, there's Ghost Stories and Beyond from last night. And then if you scroll down, you're going to see a lot of her stuff, which is pretty awesome. But what I'm really excited about is in August, we're doing an event at the Anderson House in Wabasha, Minnesota. And our guest is, and that's our class.
Okay.
Our guest is Dave Schrader. And he's going to be there the weekend with us. We have a really good, and that's our, see, she has so much stuff. I have so much stuff. That's Waverly. But we've created a very good relationship with Mr. Schrader. I've known him for well over 10 years. We're both Doctor Who fans, so we've appeared on Doctor Who panels at Comic-Con and stuff like that together. I've been on Darkness Radio a few times. He's allowed me on to promote stuff. He's a great person, a real good person. I mean, he's just busy. And we're going to get him to come out to the Anderson House. It's a weekend for people who love Dave, and they can investigate with him, listen to him, all that good stuff. So we're really excited about that. We're once again, very blessed that we've been able to work with him. He actually appeared at one of our Ghost Stories and Beyond and did a 2.5 hour, just off the top of his head, sort of just open dialogue and people asking questions and all that good stuff. And then my radio show is Sundays at 4:06, and that's, like you said, it's just a paranormal show. There's going to be changes, it sounds like, that we're making to the show. Good changes, really good changes. I'm really excited. It's I'm happy to be on a radio station. We're reaching a lot of people in the Twin Cities, and now I've been doing it on the station for 2.5 years. We're going to make it bigger. There's more to come. We got a special on Saturday night at 8 p.m. It's a 2-hour version of Ghost Box Radio, and it's called Ghost Box Radio After Dark, and it's all about alien abduction and aliens and dreams. And I have guests like John Yost is going to be on there. We're talking about his alien abduction and his film. And then I have 2 good friends who have had dreams, and until they talked about the dreams to each other, they didn't realize that they're very similar. And then John, I was just talking with John today to kind of get him ready for Saturday, and he's just like, well, I can talk about dreams because I think I'll have something to say about that. So it's just going to be, this is, like, I'm sure you're exactly the same way, Miranda. We just want to be able to have good conversations.
Yes. Yes. And that's been the best part, because, I have my web series that I do, and I essentially created my weekly live stream as a way, back during, the pandemic, whenever people were really looking for content and people were stuck inside, and it really gave an avenue to have that conversation, the really good conversations, and also have an introduction to the people who watch my show to other people that they may not have heard of, because it is very regional.
Absolutely.
And, even though your shows and stuff broadcast, essentially worldwide, with the paranormal, you do have the people that are just in those regions, that you may not know they may not be a household name in your area. So
Right. And that's the thing that I think a lot of paranormal investigators, and no offense to anyone listening that may feel the opposite, but it's all relative. I've run across so many people, and I'm sure you have too, where they're just like, you must know who I am. I'm like, I don't. Just like you don't know who I am. It goes both ways. I'm certainly not going to come across being like, well, but you don't know who I am, but I know, I'm sure you know who I am. No, no one knows who I am. No, why would they? Like you said, it's regional. It's all stuff. But that's the thing that I want to do. Like, especially when the show expands, Miranda, I want you on to talk about the jail. I want you to talk about everything so people have this understanding, like, oh, I'm going over to where the area nearby the area where the jail is. I'm going to make this a destination now. That's
Absolutely.
all I wanted to do. And that's hopefully can do that. But I don't generally have on paranormal investigators like who are just on a team or something. No offense to them.
Yeah.
It's just that I want to find something that's a little bit different, and that that you can just really have good conversations with.
Mhm.
And I feel like I'm being very disparaging when I say that, and I really don't mean it.
No, no, and it's the same way. I mean, because I like to have people on that are doing things in the
Mhm.
community that either have an interesting take or interesting perspective, or authors, podcasters, people who are on shows, people who are doing specific kinds of research. Because I think that content creators and stuff, and I'm not talking about your big TikTokers and YouTubers and stuff like that, but I feel like the content creators like you and I that are
Yeah.
there, I feel like being able to introduce them and have that conversation with the folks who are watching the show, and also the folks that are sitting there having the conversation between each other. It's I feel like they don't get the I, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. I feel like they don't get the acknowledgement for what they're doing. And so that's what I
Yeah.
like to have on my show, just because it is such a hard, nut to crack.
It is. It really is.
Mhm.
And it's tough because you want to be able to pull out as much as you can, but sometimes it is like it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to, and
Mhm.
it just but I would also be open to have like a roundtable discussion of different paranormal
Yes.
investigators to talk about techniques, or talk about ethics, or talk about there. I
Mhm.
mean, there's and now that I say that, maybe once a month I might do that, bring different people in, and here's the topic. There's certain people that I know that you throw in, and they're kind of the ringer. They're the ones that
Yeah.
cut their hand and smeared on a Ouija board before they use it. I mean, those,
Uh-huh.
you got to have where it's not just everyone agreeing, but some, getting some people in there and kind of rile them up a little bit.
And because there are so many different points of view.
Yeah.
And I think that from being a location owner, I've learned so much from these different teams that come in, because there's such a variety of techniques, and a lot of people will invite us to go investigate. I don't always go, just because I very rarely go, but I
Yeah.
like to talk to them in the beginning and then
Mhm.
in the end before they leave. The ones that I have gone and experienced with, I've learned so much from, just from the difference of approach that they do when
Yeah.
they go to these places. Some of them I agree with, some of them I don't, but they get results one way or the other.
Well, and I suppose too, I mean, let alone time, it's hard for you
Mhm.
to do the investigations as well, because I think there's a very good possibility that all spirits are going to be focused on you because you are the common denominator.
Yes. Yes, and I don't like to add a head to the head count,
Yeah.
because we are a small location.
Yeah.
If a group comes in and it's fairly quiet, and they want want me to see if that changes anything, then I'll go with them. I know my business partner is the same way. She's gone on a couple investigations, because a lot of people are very kind and they're like, "Hey, come with us." But I just tend to stay away from that, because I don't want to say taint the evidence, but I want it to be a pure experience from what they're
Yeah.
bringing in. And I don't want to add more people to what's in that room, because they do seem to interact much better when you have a much smaller head count in the room there. At least at our jail, it tends to be the way that goes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I've investigated a number of times the McIntyre Villa in Atchison, Kansas, and that's owned by Stephanie.
Mhm.
And when Stephanie is in there, it's they do want to gravitate towards her. She's not
Mhm.
trying to, they just do.
Mhm.
And she's great on investigations, so you can kind of see it both ways. But I can
Mhm.
see you're definitely gonna run into that with your location. Yeah.
You do. I mean, because both myself and Christy are there for up to 16 hours a day sometimes, and
Mhm.
we've got to the point where we know a lot of the time, at least a couple of the spirits who we're talking to, because you can tell how they react to you. You can tell how they react to, um, different tools that you're using, and then even just some on ITC, some of the voices.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things I love about that is when you can get the same voice or something very similar, at least the same kind of response.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know. I'm just going to put this out here because this is once again, this is the third time tonight this has happened. Oh gosh. I'm really good with scents, like smells and
Okay.
stuff, and I identify spirits with it. And this is third time tonight that the scent that I attribute to my father has come through, and I think it has to do with some news that came through today. Good news, but
Mhm.
it's like it's overwhelming. It's like he hasn't been here in so long. It's just really interesting how today is
Yeah.
just maneuvering. Sorry, it's kind of almost inside baseball a little bit. Like you don't know what I'm even talking about, but it's just like it suddenly just hit me again. Like, wow. So
No, that's great. I mean, I love hearing that sort of thing because, again, the fact that you have stopped and you've kind of looked what's going on, the news you said you've got and stuff.
mhm.
Um, Again, that's where with ITC and the other types of research that it's like look at the relevance, look at what's going on, and see what you can attribute it to. So, no, if it happens again, please feel free to say.
I will. There was one time I did a reading. I had a reading from a medium, and she's in just outside of Ireland. And
Okay.
during her reading, I started to get the smell of cherry tobacco. And once again, I think I have to say this because people will be easy to kind of be like pull it apart. This
Hmm.
person is someone I trust. And
Okay.
so I stopped smelling it, and all of a sudden she's just like, I'm smelling it now. And then she stopped smelling it, and it came back here. I don't know. I still don't know what that meant, but
Hmm.
that was, I mean, no one I knew smoked cherry tobacco. It could also be like peace. It could
Yeah.
be all sorts of things. And it's just, you know, for people who don't take part in the paranormal, or they do take part in paranormal because they're following certain shows and they like the danger aspect of it, or they like the kind of the showy aspect of it. To me, this is what it's about, that you can
Hmm.
smell tobacco when you're in a house that has none.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that is truly beautiful, and
Hmm.
I absolutely love.
Absolutely. So why don't we get into kind of talking about some of the different evidence pieces that you've got for us tonight?
I will. So I'm going to start, and I always have to put the disclaimer out there. It's all spirit box, and people are going to be like, they might hear something and like, I don't hear it.
Hmm.
Also, when it says I have it, it says so on the bottom of the screen, and other people might be like, well, then you're leading us. I understand,
Hmm.
and that is not the purpose. But at the same time, we don't have 45 minutes to
Right.
go through each piece and trying to guess what it is. And I have in my mind what I believe it is. At the same time, I don't hang my hat on, even though this stuff I'm playing is stuff that I've played for a long time, that I'm pretty sure is what it says, what I say. But other people might be like, no, I think it says this. Your opinion is as valid as mine. So got that out of the way. I have nothing to share. No. So we're talking about voices, right? And Tuesdays, I like to reach out. And this is the first time I ever done that. Reach out to maybe someone who is known. I'm not going after someone who just passed. I'm going after someone from history. One of my favorite people is Abraham Lincoln. And there was a documentary on Discovery Plus. I think it was originally on Traveler Discovery, called "The Last Photo of Abraham Lincoln." Abraham Lincoln had a total of 130 pictures that are
Wow.
taken. That's all there are. You know, I mean, it sounds actually a big number for Civil War time, but ultimately that's all there were of his. So someone came up with an old style photo that they found that they were trying to find provenance with. That was a picture of a man that's dead in a bed, and she believes they believe it's Abraham Lincoln. Now it's a hotly contested photo. It kind of looks like him. It in a lot of ways it doesn't.
Okay.
So I thought, well, why don't I go to the source and ask? You know, I have the spirit box, I have all this stuff. So prior to going live, I was going to do this on live. I do my meditation, and I have a flashlight out. I believe flashlight communication can work.
Mhm.
You know when it works, you know when it doesn't work, you know
Yeah.
when it's something else. And as I press President Lincoln, my name is Greg, and I'm going to be showing a photo on this. I'm pointing to the screen. I'm going to be showing a photo on here. A lot of people are going to be watching you. I'm wondering if you're going to be okay if I ask you this. I don't mean to exploit you, but I do want to show you this. And the flashlight turns on. Like I said, would you do this? And flashlight turns on. Like, could you turn it off, please? It turns off. So that was cool. And then I said, well, I have one more question. May I address at the same time Mrs. Lincoln? I'd like to ask her a question. And the flashlight turns on and turns off. Cool. So I start my live, and I have a lot of people watching, and I'm like, so President Lincoln, I'm going to show you this photo, and I put up the photo. Is this you? And we get through the spirit box. Yes.
Wow.
And it's a voice that you would be like, that sounds like what Lincoln could sound like. And so the comments start going crazy. People are like, oh my God, it's Lincoln. Oh my God. Oh yeah. I start getting starstruck. Like, what if we got him? I mean, I never have gotten starstruck doing a spirit box session. So like, I want to ask Mary Todd Lincoln a question. My question to her was going to be, Mrs. Lincoln, when you were living, you spoke to the dead. Now that you're dead, do you come back and speak to the living? Well, you're going to hear
Hmm.
on this. You're going to hear on this that I screwed up the question very badly, and you get someone who gets very agitated with me. So here we go. I'm going to find it, and this is it. You're going to have to. I think you're going to have to accept it, right? So here we go.
Let's see.
And you spent your entire life reaching out to spirits. Do you talk to other people? Do you talk to other people as a spirit, to other living people? Talk about what?
So we just start going crazy hearing that.
And
But
that was a female voice too.
it's a female voice, exasperated, not like, oh, you know, talk about. I mean, she's just like sick of my shit. I'm sorry. That's what I mean. Just like, what are you asking, you weirdo? But I'd like to play it again
Sure.
because there's another voice in there, and the voice is, and I don't have it captioned because we didn't really figure it out till afterwards. When I said, Mrs. Lincoln, and you hear a male voice. He says, "I know." That is the same voice that we had for Lincoln.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind, and just as like, maybe this was she actually makes a noise also before she makes her sentence. So I mean, there's a lot of things going on here, but here, we'll take a listen here.
Mrs. Lincoln, you spent your entire life reaching out to spirits. Do you talk to other people? Do you talk to other people as a spirit, to other living people? Talk about what?
Wow.
That's pretty neat, isn't it?
That is. Wow.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite. And then they all go downhill from here. No, they don't. Well, hopefully not. Let's see, what else do we have here? So here is, you've heard of Morris Jamel Mansion?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was on like the Holzer Files. I was on Ghost Adventures. I visited
Mhm.
there in 2014, And my friend Robert came with me. We were out there for another reason, and a vendor of mine said you should check out Morris Jamel Mansion, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so we go out there, and it's during the day. There's a story about Morris Jamel Mansion back in the day, when the 60s, when a bus of kids came there for a tour, and they got there a little early, so they're milling around outside of this mansion, and they're loud, I guess. And this woman comes out of the on the balcony, and she's like, quiet. And everyone's like, oh, okay. And she goes in, and then the guy shows up to let them in, and they're like, we're so sorry, we're so loud. And it's like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, this woman came out, and she said that that we're too loud. And he said, there's nobody in the house. And so the woman that runs that place back in the day was Eliza Jamel. So the Morris Jamel Mansion started off in the 1750s. It was built in the 1774, whatever. General Washington had it as a headquarters for about 3 months. Eventually, Alexander Hamilton had it and married Eliza Jamel, and she became the richest woman in America for a while. And if you ever see a picture of her, like there's paintings, you'll be like, holy cow, this woman is pretty stern. If she tells you something, you kind of jump. So a couple things here. I want to see if I have this one on here. Okay, this will be quick. I'll have to play it really fast. At the Morris Jamel Mansion, we were around there, and I went up to someone who worked there, and I said, we're paranormal investigators. I'm sure they love that. And I'm like, if there's no one around, can I use some of my equipment? And they're like, absolutely. They literally were like, well, sure. They brought us into a room, funny enough, the octagon room. Isn't that something?
That's synchronicities.
It truly is. And then we went down to the basement where the kitchen is. And so I'm asking questions like to the kitchen staff. And I'm going to play this 3 times. You're going to probably not hear. It's going to be hard to hear. I'm going to play it maybe 4 or 5 times. It's really quick. But
Okay.
I believe this is Eliza Jamel. So here we go. Oh, it won't let me play. I do this every time. It's too short. The video is too short, and StreamYard hates me. What it is a woman, and she goes, "Stop it." When I'm asking questions like, "Did you like working here? Was Eliza Jamel nice?" I'll stop it. Just with spite. Just really with spite.
Wow.
So going back upstairs where she would have come out to talk to the bus of kids. My friend Robert was up there, and he kind of was like, something just was a funk over him, and he was like non-responsive. And it's like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I just was really out of it. And it was really strange. So we go outside, and he's walking around the grounds, and I'm doing a spirit box session. I'm like, well, there isn't anything really happening out here. And then I go back and I listen. And back in Minnesota, I listen, and I hear Robert's name, like Robert. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I'm going to go back and hear it again. I go back a little too far, and it says home Robert. And then I go even further back, and it's actually a sentence that says go home Robert. So I'm going to play that one right now.
Wow.
I'll play it again. Isn't that great?
That's great. Huh.
And he did go home eventually, so that's it. I mean, once again, we follow the rules. We didn't know, obviously. We didn't know until later, and I'm like, I wasn't sure if I was going to share it with him because he's not a paranormal investigator like I am. So he likes this stuff, he's interested, but everyone reacts differently to this stuff. So, I wasn't sure. So, but he was surprisingly not all that weirded out by it. So that was good, I guess.
Well, you couple that with the funk that he's going through.
Yes.
And that's wild.
It was wild. It was really pretty incredible, actually. Let's see here. Going over to a place in Minnesota called the Soap Factory. we did some web series episodes there, and one night we were there just to interview people who've had experiences there. And afterwards, it's isn't it kind of like almost like a band in a sense? You just start jamming and whatever. And so like we're there and we start like pulling out equipment, and the whole purpose was to do interviews, but now we're doing an investigation. And I pull out the spirit box, and this was I've been using SB7 for everything you've heard so far. This is off of a shack hack. It was actually a sand gym.
Okay.
And this is another one of my favorites. We were in the basement. They used to have this Halloween thing going on called the Haunted Basement at the Soap Factory. It was really a very just a huge haunted house sort of experience. And they were kind of putting it together when we were down there. We were there in September, and they were kind of trying to get it ready and whatnot. And we're there after the interview and pull out the spirit box. And when we're talking, we started to get some really good responses. I saw something black move in between us. And it's like, well, it's, not a demon, nothing weird. It's just, I think it's a dog. And so I asked the question, is somebody's dog here? And this is the response I get. Somebody's dog here?
That's pretty good.
Play it again. Is somebody's dog here?
That's pretty good.
That's clear.
It's clear. I mean, some people have told me it doesn't say that it says that's my frog. Honestly, they did. And I don't think so. But, as an ITC person, right, the first thing that you're going to think about here is it's the same voice. It's a sentence. It's the same voice going across all of those frequencies. And it's pretty cool. I love it.
I love when you can get those full sentences like that, because I can't think of any other way to explain it when that's the case.
No, and those are one of those things like EVPs as well that when you hear it, like, I don't know about you, but suddenly I'm like full of energy. Like I just get energized when I hear it, and I end up like walking around the house for like 2 hours. I'm just so excited. I mean, it's like you chose to speak to us. I just love that. I just love that. So let's go to the darker side of paranormal investigating.
Nice.
Yeah, I like it. Nice. Let's do it. Darker. So Villisca, our favorite axe murder house. Went there also in 2014. A very dark experience. Not a good experience at all. A lot of attacks actually on us. And as soon as we get there, I'm running Spirit Box, and you got to listen for this one a little bit. I think it's very clear, but I think it's my ear that has been, we're trained, a lot of us, to do now that we've been listening to white noise for so long. I don't even say I think what it says. This is what it says. It says 6 people killed.
Oh, wow.
Now, for you Villisca historians, you know that there's something wrong with that statement, because 8 people were killed at Villisca. So what does that mean? And I believe that it's possibly a key into what really happened that night, because we don't know what happened. We'll never know what happened. And I think that one of the things that people talk about often when it comes to Villisca is the fact that it is that perhaps certain people in the family had more of a role than history has allowed us to know. So who knows? But so this is that soundbite right now. You're gonna hear me in two files keep asking for a name. I just want a name, and the next one I'll get one. So here we go with 6 people. We're still looking for a name. Give us a name. 6 people killed. That's what this just said.
What? 6 people killed?
Killed. if you want, I can play it again. The thing about that is that what you can't hear, because you have to almost have earphones, it keeps repeating it.
Okay, because I was about to ask if it repeated that.
It does. And it actually
Yeah.
kind of like it's in a way, and I don't know if I'm explaining it right. It's like it's falling into itself the more it's saying it.
Mm-hmm.
It is they want me to know this. They want anybody, I guess, to know this. Let me play it one more time.
Yeah, yeah.
We're still looking for a name. Give us a name. Six people killed. That's what this just said.
6 people killed.
Yep.
Yeah. And Ronnie says he heard it a couple times as well.
Absolutely. And the thing is obviously I heard it live, because I say what I hear. And the thing I'll never forget when I hear myself say that, it's clear I'm getting sick to my stomach because I was not prepared for that at all. So then we move on later in the evening. We're upstairs, and for people who have heard about Villisca but never been, the story is that there was somebody waiting in the attic for them, came out when they were asleep and murdered them, everyone in the house. Well, the thing that maybe some people don't know is when I think of attic, I think it's the very top row and there's nothing else on there. But in the attic in the farmhouse is on the same level as all the other bedrooms.
Yes.
So the idea that there is somebody waiting
Behind the wall.
behind the wall, which barely has a door, and next thing you know that they've been kind of just lying there is whatever. I mean, it's frightening. So we're in the parents' bedroom and just trying to do some more spirit box work. And so what you're going to hear here is it starts off with hearing my name, Greg. And I will say, you'll hear, and it's not through the spirit box. And I'm going to say, did someone say my name? But not to spirits, to the people in the room with me. I thought someone said it. And then you're going to hear the spirit box say, I did. And then I'm going to say, you know my name, but what is your name? And we get a name. So I'm going to play this here real fast. Or maybe not real fast. Maybe at the speed it's meant to be. Greg? What? You hear my name? You said my name. What is your name? So obviously it's not Satan. I mean, it's not. I mean, if that's the word that came through, which I do believe it is, it's not that though.
Right.
It's someone just trying to scare us. And I say that because I just want people not to think that, oh, I got them. It's just that, but someone's using that, and that's what that house does. It's a dark location. It's the STD of the paranormal, as far as I'm concerned, because you go in there, people go in there and they conjure, they do whatever they want, and they don't do anything to clean it up. They just leave for the next person to take it on. Speaking of evil,
But Revenant Acres, I got the same thing. I had a session up in Seven's room, and I kept getting Seven and Satan in that. And it's like, that's not who we're talking to. Who are we really talking to?
Yeah.
And we actually started getting words under, like you could hear one level in the spirit box and you could hear words underneath. It was really probably one of the most incredible spirit box sessions that I've had. Now I've had some really good ones, but this one I really liked it because it was saying things that you would not get across a typical radio station.
No, absolutely. And that's the thing about all of this, is that you are getting unique things coming through that you just can't explain. And in Villisca, there is no radio in Villisca. There's barely electricity in Villisca. It's really tough. It's really out there. So it's not a it's not a easy place to get any sort of equipment that needs to pull in information. It's not an easy place to do so. The week after we did our investigation, somebody went in there, and then something told him, I guess, to stab himself, and he did.
Wow.
And they had to get like a helicopter to airlift him out. That
Wow.
place is something else. Now, when I was there in October, we just went back in October, didn't get a whole lot, but we did get Beelzebub. And I mean, that's
Hmm.
a lot of syllables. So I mean,
Right.
I appreciate the use of the SB7.
Hmm.
So, and you did bring up the like the undertone like
Hmm.
beneath the white noise, and I get that a lot too. And it's like I so badly want to be able to pull that out, because I think there's a lot of important things that are being said there that we're not getting.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it's because I know on mine when I kept asking, I ended up getting Belair, and it was just this real, Belair, you could. It was a
Hmm.
totally different voice underneath when I was asking, who am I really speaking with? And, something that you mentioned that I've always thought of with Feliska, the farmhouse that I'm moving into that I've been remodeling, it's from 1902, and the attic, it's right there. It's a piece of the wall that a door that's in the wall that comes out, and that's what I think of every time. I'm like, okay, when I go up to my room on the second floor, I'm gonna I'm gonna have to do a sweep every night and
Yeah.
make sure there's no person hiding
Oh
in the
goodness.
wall in the attic.
And have all doors shut. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Good luck with that. I thought that I was a strong person, but when I stayed at Gettysburg, um, I got a house through Airbnb, and the house dated back to 1850, and I'm like, oh, this will be fun.
Hmm.
Holy cow! First of all, I saw a mist just in the kitchen, just walking.
Oh.
And I'm just like, okay. And then I was on doing a Facebook like FaceTime with a friend of mine at the time. She was there, she was a medium, and she was trying to help me through. And I I'm looking at her, and then I see on the wall a shadow move across, but I look at her because she can't see the wall. I look at her, and the look on her face was purely horrified. And I said to her, "What did you see?" And her response was, "Nothing." And I'm like,
Oh.
"No, no, no. You got to tell me what you saw." She goes, "There was something there." I'm like, "What?" And it's like it was some big shadow that walked, not not glided, but walked. And the house was so heavy. The house was so heavy, and no matter what I did, no matter what I was trying to be like, I'm come here with love and light and all this stuff, it just did
Mhm.
not change. So, my God.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, no, and that's always the freakiest part when you both see something and it's like, "No, I don't wanna talk about it."
Yeah, because that shadow I saw was not a shadow figure. It was the shadow from what was behind me.
Yes.
And that's BS. That's like, no, 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 no.
When a shadow can cast its own shadow,
Oh my God.
the first shadow figure that I ever saw, it was at Brushy Mountain, and we
Mhm.
were doing a flashlight session, and we literally saw it, and I've only ever heard one other person explain it like this. I saw what looked like a little like, almost like a little tornado kind of forming,
Mhm.
and the other person who explained it like that was somebody at the Lizzie Borden house, and after that little tornado thing, there were 9 of us in the room, and we saw this head and shoulders shadow cast on the floor from the flashlight that was turning on and off, and the shadow, it literally just strolled across the floor, and so it was the shadow of the shadow, or the shadow of the figure that we were seeing, and when you see that, that just, I mean, it's almost like it's almost like listening to snow. You can
Yeah.
hear the sound
Oh
of
my
snow
God.
falling,
Mhm.
and you can also that that's got some really, really wild power.
Yes, yes, yes. There was an event I did at a place called the Mounds Theater in St. Paul, Minnesota, and when I go into a room doing an investigation, I know how many people are in the room. I count. I always count because you never know what you're going to see, right?
Yeah.
Keep it in my mind. And we're in a dark room, and behind some people, we had the lights out. Behind them was a stairwell. I was going to say stairwell that went upstairs, but where else is it going to go? But it was a stairwell, and it was lit, so everyone was a silhouette. And I look and I count. I'm like, there's an extra person there, and look again, and they're gone. And there was a full-on shadow person that like was like perfectly like in line with all the other silhouetted heads. And it's like, no, I caught you. I saw you. You're trying to fool me, but I see you. Crazy
Did
stuff.
anybody else sense it or see it?
No one else
Oh.
did. And I'm just like, it's right behind, and they're just like, then they're starting to freak out. There at the same event in the same basement, there was a entity that we call basement. And a coworker of mine was at this event, and she was just like down there. I'm doing a spirit box session, and I said, I did the thing of like, after being there for a while, I'm like, you've been down here for so long. Do you want us to leave? And you hear through the spirit box, leave. And she's just like, that's good enough for me. She goes up the stairs, goes out the door, gets into her car, and she just drives away. And she's just done. And she lived relatively close by, but she's like, this is the fastest I ever got home. And I'm like, please don't ever do that again. Please don't ever just run out of the location and leave. I mean, I don't even know how we allowed that, quite honestly. Do you have time for one more?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is not Spirit Box. This is a voicemail.
Okay.
This goes back to there was a point that I wanted, for some reason, I wanted to see if I could get a Ouija board to work.
Okay.
So, I didn't think I had any house. It turned out I did actually have one in the house. And so I ordered one. Once again, like with the spirit box, I went to that, paranormal haven known as Amazon. Got myself my Parker Brothers Ouija board. And I thought, well, at the very least, it's not like, now I have one that's like over 100 years old. I have some that were made specifically for me, the whole thing. But got this Ouija board and put it out, and I put my hand on the planchette, and I was just like, okay, here we go. If there's somebody here, can you please move the planchette? Yeah, Hasbro. It is Hasbro. See, I'm not legit. I don't even know what, Mattel or whatever. So I said, and can you move? Nothing happens. Nor did I expect anything to happen. So I thought, okay, fine. This isn't meant for me. So I just put it away. The next day I'm at work, and the phone rings, and the phone number is area code 952-666, and then 4 other digits. I mean, I have the screen grab. It's just the 4 other digits are not necessary.
Yeah.
And I looked at my coworker, and I'm like, I'm not answering that. And we laughed. We thought it was funny. And then I see it left a voicemail message. And so I'm going to play that voicemail message for you. Okay. And check this out.
How dare you? Let me have it.
If you could see my cold chills, play that again if you don't mind.
Will do.
That.
How dare you? Let me have it.
Holy shit.
So the thing is, when you listen to the
God.
second half, it's actually 2 voices. It's how dare you. It's either let me out again or let me out of here.
I thought I heard again, but I can hear where you're saying the of here too.
It's not clear. So when I listen to that, I'm like, oh, for God's sake. So I call them back.
Good for you.
And the number doesn't exist. And so I called the phone company, and it doesn't exist. Now, someone might be like, well, you can do prank numbers now and stuff like that. I really don't think so. I really don't think that's what this is. So jump ahead 2 years later, and I do my Tuesday night Ghost Box Live, and I have my friend Christy here, and she has a voodoo. I mean, this is what are we doing? What's wrong with us? She has her voodoo doll on a chair. I put that same Ouija board next to it. We have a camera on it. I mean, what is wrong with us? And I say to it, I play that piece of audio, and I said, "This is you. I want you to please knock on some walls, do whatever. I just want to know if you're still here," which is dumb. And so nothing happens again. The next morning at 7 a.m., bam! Just something down here in the kitchen just hits the ground really loud. And Christy's like, "Well, that's Linus, my cat." And I'm like, no, Linus is right here on the bed. So I go downstairs, and there's a bunch of trays that were on the refrigerator, and they're all over the floor. And the trays, the refrigerator, they've been there for 16 years because I don't move anything around here. And there isn't like a decline or anything. There isn't like a vibration that has been slowly moving these for 16 years. I don't know what it is. I cannot explain it, but they're all over the place. And it's like, okay, well, and this is always the thing. Careful for what you wish for, because you're going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. I know when we were able to film a home exorcism on a house that was so in my first 2 seasons covered this house that we called the house on Sunset Hill. And people have heard me talk about it many times, and they've watched the season. Basically, it started in episode 2, and it was one where we were investigating a local legend that led to a home that had an artifact in it that was part of this local legend. And so this house had some crazy things happen in it. And so I covered it in the 2 seasons, and ended up, there were 5 spirits in there, and ended up at the end being able to film this minor rites of exorcism there here in this home. And so what was wild about it was the demonologist that did this. Neither myself nor my videographer are Catholic. And so, you just know what you see on TV and all this stuff, which is not exactly how it is. So we had no idea what to expect. We are Christian, both myself and my videographer, and we had a respect for this, but we didn't really know how to handle this. And so we did ask him, we're like, what do we need to do to prepare to go into this so that we're all kind of going into this the same way?
Right.
And so he told us, he said, you need to make sure, he told us a couple things, and he said, you need to make sure you're prayed up. And so we're like, okay, well, the weekend before, it was 2 days before this was supposed to take place, because the demonologist was coming in on that Saturday morning. His partner was coming in on that Friday evening. And I'm sitting in my office, and I get a voicemail as I'm sitting there in a meeting. Phone doesn't ring. It just goes straight to voicemail. And all of a sudden it starts blinking. Now, I was marketing director at this company. And so nobody in the paranormal side knew what I was doing with this home. And also nobody knew where I worked or my direct line. My direct line is not published. And so I was getting ready to go to lunch, and I thought, well, I'm going to see who this is. And so when I picked it up, it was a church out of Memphis, Tennessee. I'd never heard of it, but it was a church. And basically it was a recorded message that called, and it said, if you are in desperate need of prayer, please press 1 and we will connect you with someone to talk to you. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what? So I play it again, and I record it where it's playing it. And so my videographer, he calls me, and he's like, you're not going to believe this. He got a message. There where he works. And so I actually, when I was going down to the front desk, I said, "Hey, did I get a phone call from somebody? And did you just patch them straight?" Because sometimes she would patch them straight through
Sure.
to voicemail. And because she knew I was in a meeting. And so I said, and she said, "Somebody called and asked to speak to you. They wouldn't tell me who they were, and they had the deepest voice." And they were just like, when I said, you're in a meeting, they're like, "Okay." And so she said, "I had to put you through to her voicemail." But it was not a person. I mean, it was clearly a message, and he had the
Mhm.
exact same thing. Now, I had a friend who was helping me out on this, and she kind of works with me on a lot of other darker type investigations. And she got the same call, but she got it after the exorcism of the home happened. And she was telling somebody about this because we were going to turn this into a documentary. I
Mhm.
guess that was 4 years ago. So we're going to turn it into a documentary either this year or next. And she was telling a friend about it. And she ends up, anytime she starts talking about that house, she gets calls on her cell phone. The first time she got it, it was on her home line, which is not a published number. It's most people just have home lines just because it makes their cable and internet cheaper. They don't use them. And she got it on her home line. And then after that, she got it on her cell phone. Thankfully, I've yet to get it anywhere because all I have is a cell phone at this point. But it was the weirdest thing.
And what's also weird is at 1:29 and 1:30, you froze.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
At least over here you did.
Okay. See, I didn't see any freezing here.
And now the smell is coming back that I had earlier. So interesting.
Very interesting. Wow. Did everything freeze just me, or did the
No,
audio?
no, I mean you like froze, and the banner on the bottom kept going. I don't know if anyone in the audience had experience of a freeze on you.
Huh. That's weird. I didn't see any kind of blip. I'm actually hardwired in to my internet right here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because where I'm moving, um, I don't want to, rely on Wi-Fi. So I'm actually hardwired in.
Yeah. The night that I did my spirit box session, I was hardwired in too. That I told you I kept freezing.
Okay. Ronnie says, Greg, that you froze twice on his end and I haven't frozen at all. See, I've not seen you freeze either.
Isn't that something? Interesting.
Which it doesn't surprise me because that smell, when I
Mhm.
was working on that case, every time, excuse me, every time I would I would leave town and come to my house. There were several occasions I would come in and I don't smoke and there's nobody here in my house that smokes.
Mhm.
And I would come into the house and it smelled like stale cigarette smoke,
Mhm.
like somebody was standing there. And then when I would work on editing that video, when I would be doing static cameras and such, it would smell like somebody who was smoking was just walking right up and standing right beside me. And you could smell the movement.
Oh my gosh. And I had something similar. I work for corporate Best Buy. And they just built I work in production, motion and still production. And we just
Okay.
built a new studio that's 77,000 square foot. It used to be a distribution center. One day I'm over in the kitchen area and I'm smelling cigarette smoke, like cigarette smoke that is basically smells like somebody smokes like 100 packs a day.
Yeah.
Just someone who just is coming out of their pores. And I'm
Yes.
like, God, I'm like checking the garbage can, like, is there, lit cigarettes somewhere, whatever, not finding anything. And all of a sudden at that point, we don't have desks. I'm just working in one of the massive sound stages. And all of a sudden I could smell the smoke coming back up. And all of a sudden I get the feeling that someone put out their cigarette on my arm, like just pure pain, like just, but in a small area,
Wow.
really quick. And like they put it away, to the point that a couple more times during that day, I could smell it coming back. And I actually was a bit frightened about, not
Mhm.
about it, but about more pain that
Yeah.
maybe this person, and I'm going to say he, wanted to inflict. I believe that he was angry that I could detect him. But how couldn't you? I mean, it was like a walking ashtray. I mean,
Mhm.
it was like, this is not subtle. So, but it
Mhm.
was, I mean, that pain was
Yeah.
just like, you know what it's like when you accidentally burn yourself really quick, but it was just enough to like
Mm.
that. Really strange.
And I'll have to go back and I'll look at those numbers and see when I watch the video to see if I froze on that. I know Marianne says I thought I saw you freeze. I'm not sure if she's talking about me
Yeah, I was wondering which one.
or you, but she
Yeah.
did see somebody freeze. Um, that is interesting, and same with with my friend Tiffany that received that call afterwards. She was getting the same thing when she would leave my house after investigating there. Okay, she says
Yeah.
Miranda.
Interesting.
That is interesting. She would feel like there was somebody riding in her back seat, or she
Mhm.
would, for about a week after every time we would investigate that place, she, for about a week after, would feel like somebody was just kind of looming over her. It was the weirdest location I've ever experienced. And when you start experiencing that stuff with it, when it starts phone calls,
You
people
froze again.
experiencing, oh, I did?
Yeah, you froze again for me.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
It every time I was talking about this case on, another podcast, and the door, but not this door, but we're in the garage where I would do my my podcasts, starts shaking, just like shaking like something's trying to break the door down. Um, Very odd when I would talk about that one.
When we do the Ghost Box lives, and I haven't had a second camera. Normally, I'll do two cameras because I have a table of equipment that we have and that will go off and stuff. But one of the things that is amazing when it works is I have this, and
Ah.
obviously it's moving because I'm moving it around. But we've had many occasions that the bell starts moving and swinging, and it's almost like sometimes almost like this. And
That's cool.
and every time I'm putting my hand all around it, not touching it, like, okay, is there a breeze or something coming to get it? And we'll be like, and I'll be able to switch cameras, and Brad's seen it absolutely. And we'll just be like, can you please move the bell? And it starts to swing. It'll just start to swing on its own. Not always, and often it doesn't, but when it
Mhm.
does, it's pretty incredible. I've never seen anything like it, and it's kind of creepy because it is like, well, where is this coming from? And it's just crazy. And so that's the stuff that we really like to. Yeah, even the shadow of the bell was only moving. I mean, we'll go back, and Brad is really
Oh,
kind. He'll go back and he'll rewatch stuff and cut it down for me, and
nice.
send in is like, okay, what's going on here? I mean, we've had it where we did, we brought through, Lisbeth, Borden, and I was
Mm,
holding my cat Linus because I know that she loved her dogs,
mhm.
and I'm like, "Do you want, you wanna meet Linus?" And Linus has a reaction. I always pick him up. I always hold him during my lives for a little
Mhm.
bit because people love him. He's so cute, and he's a little kitty cat, but he's also a good piece of paranormal equipment, and, and so Linus had this real jerk reaction to something he was looking up, and it was after I said, "Would you like to touch Linus?" And he goes crazy, and then Brad cut the clip and he sent it to me, and it was just like, yeah, Linus has been on here 100 times, and he just never acts that way. It was just really incredible.
Well, you wanna know something else kinda odd?
Hmm.
I'm wearing my Lizzie Borden shirt.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's crazy. That is crazy.
That's
And
kind of odd,
It
right?
is it is kind of odd, and I had asked, Sam Beltrusis if he's okay that I reached out to Lisbeth because I didn't want to. I mean, once I found out that he was related,
Mhm.
and it's once again, it's not about exploiting, right? It's
Right.
always about trying to be respectful, and it's like, well, if, and when it comes to, like, very prominent people that are kind of in our field. I don't mean Sam, I mean Lisbeth. I
Right.
mean, Sam is great, but You just want to make sure that it doesn't look like you're just being like silly.
Exactly.
I have a for some lives, I ended up getting like a Raggedy Ann doll for just because I could. Until I was going to have in the background of some of the lives. And one day, as soon as I brought it in the house, literally as soon as I brought it in the house, Shar, who's a medium, sends me a note. She goes, something's changed over at your house. And do you know a Harry? And I'm like, no, I don't. And she's just like, well, something's just entered your house. And finally it's like, it's the doll. And I want to do one of my Ghost Box lives where it's like I have the doll on one camera and I try to see if any spirit is in there, but at the same time, it's a Raggedy Ann doll. So all people are going to see is like, oh, Greg is trying to be some sort of like
Yeah.
wannabe, and it's like to think that he has his own Annabelle. So it's like, no, I won't do that.
It's tough.
Mhm.
It's really tough because I can see where that would be. I mean, that would be a challenge because people, well known Robert the Doll,
Yep.
Annabelle,
Yep.
the like you said, Lizzie Borden. I mean, but the activity is not always just limited to those, but because we are the way we are in the paranormal community, I think that you probably would get backlash. Somebody,
If I saw someone do that, I know I'd be like, what are they doing? I mean, I hate to say that, but it is kind of like, oh, come on, but yet it's okay when I do it. No, it's so it's just like it's best just to not worry about it, and for me at least, and not because it's like I could understand why people would be like, oh, what are you doing?
Mhm. So do you still have the doll?
Oh yeah, no, it's right over there. I say hello to her every morning. I pat her on the head. Something tells me I want her, and I do like live streams in like 3 rooms in this house, and I
Mhm.
want to just put her in the back room where I do for the Warren files, but something keeps telling me don't bring her back there, and that's kind
Oh,
of weird.
wow.
It is kind of weird that it just feel and like Shar said to me, it's like, are you talking to it? I'm like, no. And she's just like, like, don't do that. And I'm like, well, I just say good morning and I'll pat her on the head and stuff every time I walk past her. And she's like, I'm like, well, I don't have anyone else in the house. Why not? So
Is she still picking up on a Harry?
we haven't talked about it in a while. I should ask
Gotcha.
her. I'm seeing her tomorrow. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? I mean, because I mean,
Mhm.
I didn't tell anyone I'm like getting a doll. I mean, I didn't tell anyone that something's coming, and yet she's just like, something. What's happened in your house? I'm like, nothing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's always freaky when people do that sort of thing. Like they know something more than I do in my own house. So
Yeah, yeah. Now, do you have any, type of, empathic abilities, medium, spiritual
Mhm.
gifts?
I actually use mediumship when I use my spirit box. It's
Okay.
taken me a very long time to say this. Because you just you don't it's hard to put that out there because I don't want to just be like so many other people who just like,
Yeah.
oh, I have it, and you don't always know if that's true because you listen to them and you're like, okay, if you say so, and I don't want people to say that about me, but
Mhm.
um, when I do spirit box, I really use the mediumship when I'm trying to reach out to people's loved ones. I don't know what
Mhm.
they sound like, so when I reach out to, Aunt Gracie, and I'm like, "Can you talk? Can you hear a woman come through?" It's up to them to tell me if that's her or not. I
Yeah.
won't know. And then more often than not, you get that. And I was over at Hotel Josephine last year, and some people knew what I did, and they're like, during the break, can you try to reach out to my husband and this kid's father? It's been 13 years since he died today. Like, yeah, of course. So we go into another room and I started asking questions, and some answers come through. Some guy, I don't know who it is, but I look at the mother and there's a tear going down her face.
Wow.
And I'm like, it's him. And she goes, it is. I haven't heard that voice in so many years.
Mm. Wow.
Um, my friend John and my friend Chris, they're husband and wife, and their son Brian passed away unexpectedly a year ago, coming up on a year. And I knew Brian. Brian was 42, so it's not like he was, not like he was a kid. He was older. And one day during the beer box session, John said to me, "Can you try Brian?" And I'm like, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "Yep." I'm like, "Brian, are you here?" And he's like, "I'm here." Comes back and says, "I'm here." And John through text is like, "Ask him if he's by mom or dad." And I said, "Brian, are you by your mother or your father right now?" And the response was mom.
Wow.
So it's this is what I love about what I do. This is where you're actually making a difference in people's lives, and that's really what I want to do. I also did one a couple weeks ago to somebody I'm not going to name, because it's the same sort of thing like with the
Mhm.
Raggedy Ann doll. It's just people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, really?" But I asked for her to come through, and I had other people with me who know the voice, and we had a conversation with somebody that that you wouldn't expect to come through.
Wow.
And so thank you, Brad. So it's incredible. And that's kind of how I test myself now. It's like, who can I bring through? Can I bring through certain people? And sometimes we do it and we don't get anybody. Sometimes we do it, we get people we think it is. I can't say that was Mary Todd Lincoln,
Mhm.
because we don't know, but it certainly was an intelligent response.
Mhm.
That's the sort of thing. It's like you can't all these responses we can't say with a definite like, oh, that was so and so, but we can say that we got something that's certainly interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I had an experience, and I highlighted it in my last season where I was doing this jail, the old Fentress County Jail,
Mhm.
and one of the inmates who was in there was Billy Dean Anderson, and he was, he had spent a lot of time. He was on the FBI's most wanted list, and he hid out in a cave during that time. And while he was in there, he was this fantastic artist. He had painted, I think it was like over, I can't remember if it was 150 or 350 pictures of Jesus he had painted.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I brought in a paintbrush and actually a variety of paintbrushes. And as I was sitting there, I started asking for Billy Dean Anderson, and I didn't say anything about what I had. I opened it up, and I had the obelisk sitting there and I had the spirit box sitting there. And as soon as I pulled the paintbrush out, I held it up and I said, "If you can see me or see this, can you tell me what this is?" And across the spirit box, it says paintbrush. And then it says mine. And right after that, I go into another cell and I have the spirit box turned off and I have the obelisk on. And I hold it up and I'm like, "Can you see what I'm holding?" The obelisk says paint.
Mhm.
And I was literally just, I mean, I have absolutely no explanation for that. And I mean, very intelligent. And two, what are the odds
Yep.
that if I've not mentioned it, not said anything, hold that up, that not just two of the devices, but at least one of the devices, what are the odds that that's going to actually be able to call that out when I'm sitting there holding that up?
I think it's hard to get anything good on the obelisk. I think it's not an easy thing at all. And even
It's
when you
very
do,
challenging.
there's so many other things to kind of like
Mhm.
weed through. And so I haven't told this story in a long time, but ended up telling it 3 times this week. That when my mom was in hospice, she stayed in hospice for about 5 days, just as a vegetable for 5 days. She wouldn't release, she wouldn't go. And my mom had a lot of dignity. She really, she was so worried about what people would see if she was in her coffin or anything like that. She really didn't want to see people like that. I was getting really mad because my dad had passed 4 years beforehand. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And so I get into the car after I spent the night with my sister and her family, and we were just at her bedside, nothing changed. So I get in the car and I start yelling at my dad.
Mhm.
I just like, what are you doing? This that she wouldn't want to be seen this way. I mean, you can't tell me you don't have the power to help to lift her up and take her out and I mean, it was a 25-minute drive and I was kind of being like really upset the whole time to the point that, my dad may have passed away, but I felt really bad and actually kind of worried that I actually spoke to him that way.
Mm.
So I get home and I turn on the obelisk. I'm like, I wonder if anything will come through from that, if he's going to talk to me at all. And I turn it on, and it's an obelisk 5,
Hmm. That's what
and
mine is.
I just sit there, because I don't ever, when people start moving around, like you're just going to get words. It
Hmm.
needs to calibrate, and so I just have it sit there, and 2 words come up. It was heard, HEARD, and then release.
Wow.
I had that thing go for 40 minutes and no other words came through, just heard and
Mm.
release. 1:15 that morning, I get a call from my sister. Mom had passed.
Wow.
And it's weird because, you live your whole life with your parents, and to be like, never thought that this is how it would end, where, you are weaving that paranormal learnings into that, where it just kind of seems like, well, maybe this isn't the time, maybe this isn't right. But then I did, and we get a reaction, we get something, and it's something that I personally take as this is him, and he reached out to me, and he moved her along. Maybe that was always the plan, but that's how it went.
Wow. That's an incredible story.
It's very powerful. It's
Yeah.
think about it and like, gosh, so it's very, and so now with his, the scent that I associate with him coming through so much today, it's just been really a very strange, I should say.
Wow. That's that's fascinating. And as Brad says, pulling on the heartstrings with that story for sure.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
when my dad died, we got the call, and it's just like he had died. My sister called, and so first thing we did, we all went over to mom's and stuff. And my sister said to me, like, when I was there, it was in the middle of the night. She goes, "Are you going to try the spirit box to reach out to him?" Like, he had been gone for like a few hours, and I thought, oh, that's really rude. I just like, that's nowhere in my mind. So I'm just like, I
Mhm.
don't know. And then 4 years later, it's like, it's just that it's so in my life, it's so ingrained in
Mhm.
my existence that just all became one, and that's all became the healing process. And that night that dad died, um I went downtown Minneapolis to where I work to get my laptop, because I knew I wasn't going to be there for quite some time. I get out of the car across the street from where I work. The smell that I've been telling you about was the first time I got that I associated with him. That was the night that
Wow.
happened. And it'd been with me, that at that point, it'd been with me for about 2 weeks solid. And then after his funeral, um, it dissipated, and it only comes in once in a while. But when it does, it's
Okay.
unmistakable.
Yeah, and you know that there's a reason at that point.
Well, and it's kind of a little worrying, like, because I always think of him coming in as, and I don't necessarily know if it's him or both of them, right?
Okay.
But I mean, originally it was just him, but who's to say that it's not both of them? And it's like, it's always kind of meant to be a calming factor, I believe. So it's
Mhm.
like, is there something going to happen that I don't know about? Not to be weird or not to be like foreboding or dramatic, but it's like,
Right.
so is this preemptive, or is this about some stuff that happened today, or what? So it's just kind of like, I'm on high Greg alert, right
Mhm.
now. Like, I don't know,
Right.
I'm gonna have a pizza. That's really all. That's just how I'm gonna handle it.
And just watch and see, I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're getting up here to the top of the hour here at
Yep.
11, and, I can't tell you that I absolutely love those pieces of evidence that you shared with me
Well,
tonight,
thank you.
and our conversation, that, I've really enjoyed it, and would definitely love to have you back on at another time to, talk about some more things.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna work with you to get you on mine too.
I would love
So I'd love
that.
to have you on for that too.
I would be honored.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and just plug your show, your event company, and some of the different things you've got going on, and then any events that you've got going on as well.
Thank you. So, I mean, if you're able to go to MN Ghost Box on Facebook and feel free to like that. I mean, I'll spew out a lot of stuff, but everything is on MN Ghost Box. You know, it's the events. I'll put that there. The radio show, my Ghost Box lives. So, and on Saturday we have a special Ghost Box radio called Ghost Box Radio After Dark. We're talking about alien abduction, alien dreams. We have people on the show who've experienced all of that. And we're going to have a conversation about that. And events, ParaFriends Events, we do, you know, we're doing these ghost stories and beyond once a month. The next one in May is going to be a gallery with Char Savoy and Sandy Stangler. And it's going to be just a fun gallery for people to get messages. But then we're really excited. A couple things. We're headlining at Waverly Hills on June 3rd. And that's going to be a daytime event. And we're doing a workshop, but there's going to be tours. There's going to be a time that people can walk around a little bit. We're going to have food there for people. I know Brad is going to be going, and it's going to be fantastic. And that you can get tickets at therealwaverlyhills.com. And then we're excited because we have our Dave Schrader event in August, and that's going to be a weekend at the Anderson House in Wabasha, Minnesota, which is where they shot the Grumpy Old Men. And so, yeah, you can go to Charvinity, go to events. We have our classes on there. We have everything else, but her great events and her great classes. Then we also have the Anderson House event with Mr. Schrader. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's so much going on. I am truly blessed with all the opportunities that are coming our way. So, yeah, that's what we got going on.
Wonderful. And as Ronnie said, it looks like we both just froze.
I think that's just the internet saying we're sick of listening to Greg. I think that's really what that is. Like, are you still talking? So,
well, I could talk to you for another hour. But definitely folks, go on there, check out the pages that Greg mentioned. We've put all of those in the show notes as well as in the comments here. So if you're going back watching the episodes, we've got those where you can pull them up real quick. So so definitely go check those out. And I definitely want to catch some of your spirit box sessions, because those just, like I said, I got chills on several of them.
yeah, those are pretty special to me for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And guys, also go and check out the EnigmaCons. We've got that on there, enigmacons.com, and join us April 22nd for the EnigmaCons event at St. Albans. I know Mr. Anderson said that there are just a few tickets left for that. So definitely check those out, and come see me and see a bunch of the other great speakers that's going to be that event, and support a good cause, support St. Albans Sanatorium, because that's these Paracons, they definitely support these locations. And as Ronnie says, looking forward to the next time that you're back, Greg.
Well, thank you. I look forward to being back, and hopefully you check out when we have Miranda on Ghost Box Radio, because it's going to be great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. So until next Thursday night, I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and we'll see you then, 9 p.m. Eastern next Thursday night. Good night, everyone.